Good afternoon and welcome to this council meeting for the municipality of Dutton Dunwich. It is March 13, 2024. It is 5 o'clock. Clerk Tara, if you would get us started, please.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that the meeting of the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich opens at 5 p.m. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. And our land acknowledgement will be read by Councillor Pemberton.
We will begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is traditional territory of First Nations people who have long-standing relationships to the land, water, and region of southwestern Ontario. We also acknowledge that the local Lower Thames River watershed communities, which include Chippewa of the Thames First Nation, Oneida Nation of the Thames, Munsee Delaware Nation, and Delaware Nation of Moraviantown. We value the significant historical and contemporary contributions of the local and regional First Nations and all of the original peoples of Turtle Island, North America. We are thankful for the opportunity to live, learn, and share with mutual respect and appreciation.
Thank you. Does council have any declaration of pecuniary interest? I see none. The draft minutes were presented in the agenda package by council. Are there any errors or omissions? See no one with their hand up. Our minutes will be adopted as presented to council in the agenda. Clerk Tara, is there any items not listed on the agenda?
There are none.
Okay. At this time, it is a public meeting to present our development charges.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Dreyfus, that the public meeting for development charges background study opens at 5:02 p.m. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. With us today is Daryl from Watson and Associates. Welcome, Daryl. And I will just turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and pleasure being here this evening before yourself and before council again. Tonight, what we're going through here is a presentation for the public meeting portion of the development charge background study process. This is a statutory public meeting required under the Development Charges Act. And so if we go to the, I guess, second slide after the title slide. Perfect. So in terms of an agenda tonight, we'll give a high-level overview of the process, talk about a little bit about development charges, what they are, talk about the growth forecast that we're trying to accommodate with the capital needs, talk about what the development charge rates are that we've calculated, and some of those policy matters that we've incorporated into the development charges background study, which is shared on the municipality's website. Next slide, please. And so with respect to the timelines of the process, we began this back in August of 2023. From there, we worked with municipal staff to prepare the analysis through January of 2024. And then at the end of January, we released the development charge background study and bylaw and put that on the website to start this statutory public process. Tonight, we're having the formal public meeting as part of the process. But last week, or on March 4th, we did have a stakeholder session and a council workshop to further discuss some of the policies and matters. From here, council will consider the bylaw on April 10th and consider that for passage hopefully on April 10th, and potentially you can review that at a subsequent meeting if required. Next slide, please. And next slide. So development charges are a revenue tool that municipalities use to recover capital costs associated with new development in the municipality. And so that's new residential growth, new non-residential growth comes to municipality. As a result of that development, you need to build infrastructure, and development charges are to recover that cost of infrastructure. Now, these costs are in addition to what a developer would normally pay as part of their subdivision. And so a developer might, if you take a typical residential subdivision, build the internal roads, water mains, sewer mains, streetlights, et cetera. Development charges are to recover the cost of infrastructure from the broader services. Okay, as mentioned earlier, municipalities are empowered to oppose these charges under the Development Charges Act. And one thing to note, and I'll talk about it a little bit later in the presentation, development charges are typically collected and imposed at the time of issuance of a building permit. Next slide, please. And so this slide really sets out this triangle at the top. If we look at it, we're saying if we have a new development, we have to spend money on infrastructure to accommodate that new development. Now, to the extent that that infrastructure is related to the new development, we can use development charges to fund that infrastructure. If you're not using development charges, the money has to come from somewhere, and that means it's going to come from taxes or your existing reserves. Next slide, please. So development charges aren't new. They've been around actually since the 1950s. They were imposed under the Planning Act, and they were called lot levies back then. In 1989, the Development Charges Act was first formalized and then revised subsequently in 97, which is most similar to the act that we use today. There's been a number of changes over the last couple of years. I won't go through all of them, but all of these changes to the legislation have been incorporated into the background study and the policies that we've included in the analysis. Next slide, please. So with respect to the development charge methodology, the Development Charges Act does have something like 70 clauses and years of Ontario Municipal Board or Ontario Land Tribunal case law, which really guides how we calculate the charges. But very simply, the first thing we need to do is identify the amount, type, and location of development. And then from there, we need to identify the servicing needs to accommodate that development. So for example, if we have 1,000 new people coming to the municipality, we need to develop parkland for that 1,000 people. Item 3 says, well, what's the specific capital cost? And so that could be, what's the specific development of that parkland? Do we need a playground? Do we need trails and such? And so we would identify all of those capital needs and set those out in the background study. Once we identify all those needs and those costs, then we need to make a series of deductions. And so we need to deduct any grants, subsidies, and other contributions that the municipality is sure that they're going to receive, any share of the infrastructure that will benefit the existing community. And so, for example, if we take an existing facility, knock it down and replace it with a bigger one, we need to give credit for the fact that we're replacing an existing facility. As well, we have to undertake a service level calculation, and those are set out in Appendix B of the background study. And so we have to ensure that we don't surpass that service level cap, and we've shown that in the background study that we haven't surpassed that cap. As well, and this would apply to future development charge studies, if there is money in a reserve fund, we have to take that into account and deduct that as well. Once we identify those net growth related costs, then we need to divide the benefit between residential and non-residential benefit, and then divide it by the growth in the respective categories to come up with the charge. And on the next slide, what we see at a very high level is we take those costs associated with new development, divide it by the development, and what we get for residential growth or residential development is a development charge per unit. And for non-residential growth, it's typically a development charge per square foot or per square meter of the floor space of that building. Next slide, please. So with respect to the eligible services, the Development Charges Act does list 19 services for which municipalities can impose a development charge. And so you see here what we've highlighted in the blue teal color is services related to a highway, fire protection services, and parks and recreation services. Those have been included in the development charge calculation. We'll note that water and wastewater are highlighted in orange color. And we're noting that those services are, the cost for those services are recovered through capital charges under the Municipal Act. Next slide, please. And so with respect to the anticipated development we're targeting, we're looking at about 567 net population increase and about 388 units and just over 100,000 square feet of non-residential development. Slide. And next slide. So with respect to capital costs, so those costs that we can actually include in the development charge background study and those costs that you can fund projects with, we have it listed in the Development Charges Act, and we've pulled that forward here in the slides. And so what it says is we can acquire land or an interest in land, we can improve the land, we can purchase or lease or build facilities and structures, we can purchase vehicles and equipment. And if we do lease a facility, we can include the capital component of the lease, and as well as circulation materials for libraries. If we had to finance any of this infrastructure with debt, we can also include the interest costs related to those capital projects. Okay, next slide, please. There are some limitations specifically set out in the Act. And so parkland acquisition, we're not allowed to collect for because municipalities recover that through the Planning Act through parkland dedication. Vehicles and equipment that we would include need to have an average useful life over 7 years or 7 years or more. And if there's computer equipment that's not integral to providing the service, and typically these days that really refers to laptops and computers that municipal staff are using on a day-to-day basis. As well, studies are not eligible. Now, they used to be eligible under the Development Charges Act a couple of years ago, but with some of the recent changes, the province has removed studies as being eligible. However, they did note back in December that they will be reviewing that and may add that back in at a future date. Okay. And next slide, please. So with respect to the capital needs that are included in the background study, and these are set out in chapter 4 of the study, I believe. What we have for services related to a highway is just under $1.5 million worth of gross capital costs. We've made deductions at about $425,000, and just over $1 million is included in the development charge calculation. Similarly, for public works, we have about 1.4 million in the calculation. For fire services, we have gross cost of 8.6 million, but after the deductions, we're only including about $937,000. And then with respect to parks and recreation services, $856,000. Next slide, please. So with respect to the rates that we've calculated, and again, these detailed calculations are set out in the background study. What we've calculated for a single and semi-detached home is just under $9,500 a unit. For multiples, this would be your townhomes, just over $7,400 a unit. Larger apartments, so 2 bedrooms or more, would be just over $5,900 a unit. And apartments that are 1 bedroom or less would be just under $3,500 a unit. For non-residential developments, the calculated charge would be $6.35 per square foot of development. Next slide, please. And so one of the changes that occurred in 2022 to the legislation was that municipalities need to phase in their development charges. And so whatever we calculate in the background study and put into the bylaw, municipalities cannot charge more than 80% in the first year. And so for the calculated charge of 95 or 94.65 in the first year, we would only be able to include just over $7,500 for a single detached home. From there, each year, we can increase it by 5% up until the 5th year, where we can impose the fully calculated charge that we had identified. I will note that charge is subject to indexing every year, as set out in the legislation, and I'll touch on that as well. On next slide, please. We'll see the non-residential calculation. So the development charge per square foot, similarly, that's $6.35. In the first year, we can only impose $5.08 per square foot, and then step that up over time until the 5th year, when we can impose the full calculated charge. Next slide, please. And so with respect to a survey of your comparators or the municipalities in the county, and a couple others, what we see is the calculated charge for Dutton Dunwich is somewhere in the middle. We will note that West Elgin is potentially considering development charges. And then I know Southwest Middlesex has undertaken the development charge background study process. And so potentially in the coming months, we might see what their proposed charges are as well. So although they're zero right now, they are considering development charges. Next slide, please. So similarly, with respect to commercial development charges, again, Dutton Dunwich is somewhere in the middle of the comparators, understanding that West Elgin and Southwest Middlesex are reviewing development charges. And on the next slide, we see the same story for industrial development charges as well. And next slide. And so for some policy matters and things for council to consider, with respect to the timing of payment, I mentioned earlier on in the presentation that development charges are typically paid at the time of building permit issuance. However, if you are proceeding with a rental housing development or institutional development, you get to pay your development charge in 6 installment payments over 5 years. So the first payment upon occupancy and then equal annual payments for the next 5 years. Okay, that's subject to interest. As set out in the legislation, we can charge no more than the average prime rate plus 1%. For certain types of developments that are proceeding through site plan or zoning bylaw amendment applications, their rate will be frozen on the date that they submit their complete application. The municipality will go through the process, approve the application, and once that application is approved, the development will have 2 years to pull their building permits. If they do so within the 2 years, their rate is frozen at the date that they submitted their application. Otherwise, it's the rate of the day when they pull their building permits. Next slide. So there are a number of mandatory exemptions that are set out in the legislation. And so these types of developments do not have to pay development charges. And so that's upper tier, lower tier governments. And so if the county builds the facility, you wouldn't charge them a development charge. Similarly with the school boards. Industrial buildings can expand their footprint up to 50%, and they don't have to pay a development charge on that expansion. Anything above that, they would have to pay a development charge. As well, universities are exempt. Now, the next set of bullets in orange there are mandatory exemptions that have been put into place by Bill 23, which came into force in late 2022. And so you can add up to 2 apartments in a single detached home, semi-detached home, or a townhouse, and you don't have to pay a development charge. And so that can be 2 basement apartments or 1 basement apartment and 1 apartment on top of a garage. So you'll just pay the development charge for that house, and then you don't have to pay for those extra 2 apartments. You can add 1 unit or 1% of the units in an apartment building or existing rental residential building. And then as well, they've added exemptions for affordable housing, affordable owned units or affordable rental units, and attainable units. Those are not yet enforced, but I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. I mentioned that we have to phase in the development charge. And so again, that first year we can only impose 80%, then 85%, and step that up until 5 years, we can impose the full charge. And then there's also a rental housing discount. So they get to pay their development charge in installments, but they also get a discount based on the number of bedrooms they have. Okay. And nonprofit housing is exempt as well. And so next slide, please. With respect to council's decisions, there are some discretionary exemptions that you can provide. So council has the ability to reduce or waive the charge in whole or in part for certain classes or categories of development. And so, for example, that could be industrial development, it could be places of worship, as an example. And so you can phase in the charge over time. And so although we have to phase it in starting at 80% up to 100 over 5 years, if you chose to phase it in over a longer period, you could do that as well. And then as well, there are redevelopment credits that we have to provide. And so if I'm a homeowner and I knock down my house and I build 3 homes, I get a credit for that house that I knocked down. So I only have to pay for the extra 2 homes that I'm constructing. So in the draft bylaw that's in the background study on the website, the proposed discretionary exemptions we've included for council's consideration are place of worship, cemeteries or burial grounds, and non-residential farm buildings used for bona fide farm purposes. And so I mentioned that the charges, as we calculate them, they will be indexed every year. And so the Development Charges Act provides this specific Statistics Canada index. And so what this is trying to do is keep the charge in pace with inflation, so you don't have to do a study every year, but this index does try to track tender prices to keep that development charge in pace with capital construction costs. Next slide, please. And so in the background study in Appendix E, there's a local service policy. And I mentioned again at the beginning of the presentation, development charges are in addition to what a developer would normally construct as part of their subdivision. And so this local service policy sets out what's the responsibility of the developer in that scenario. And then otherwise, what are we going to include in the development charge calculation? Okay. Next slide, please. And so with respect to next steps in the process, once this public meeting is concluded, then council will consider the bylaw on April 10th. And from here, the council can ask any questions and the public may make any representations that they'd like as part of this process. So with that, that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Daryl. Are there any questions from council? We've seen this before, but maybe doing your homework, something you thought about? Councillor Pemberton.
So we had discussed, and thanks for the emails and clarification back and forth about industrial development charges being waived. So I think I've kind of got my head wrapped around that a little bit better. I still think I'm for the industrial charges being waived. So that, I guess that's just a comment. My question is for the development charges that are frozen, you said it's at the time of a submitted application. So it's not from an approved application, it's from the time it's submitted, and they have 2 years from the time of submission then.
So through the mayor, the rate is frozen when they submit their complete application. Then the municipality is going to review and approve the application. Once the municipality approves the application, then they have 2 years to build before the new rate kicks
So
in.
essentially it is from approval, then they have 2 years after the date of the approval that is frozen.
That is correct.
Okay, I just wanted clarification on that.
Deputy Mayor Loveland, you had a question?
I think I've given some thought as well to industrial, and I agree with Councilor Pemberton that we should make that industrial exempt. I also am a bit concerned that when you do the comparisons, we have to realize that we're a little higher than that chart would indicate, because Central Elgin, Port Barrel aren't exempt from water and sewer, I don't think. So if you are at our water and sewer rates on, we're gonna be looking at about $25,000. So we're gonna be above Elmer. So I don't think we're right in the middle. I think we're closer to the top. And I'm a little concerned that we may push some development away if we're that high. But
Guess we could look at our connection charges and add it to our development fees and come up with an accurate number on that. Okay, any other questions? Anyone from the public?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
In all your years of been doing development charges, have you ever known development charges to scare a developer away?
So through the mayor, I think this is something that we hear. It's pretty common that we hear that as a reason against imposing development charges. But what we've seen, and our firm has undertaken competitiveness studies and reviewed these things, and what we've seen is that especially for industrial development or non-residential development, a lot of their concerns are actually more so on the operating costs, less so on the one-time capital costs. And so development charges, although they're consideration, not typically a huge factor in disincentivizing development. And I will say that, again, in light of all of these things and increased pressure on taxes, again, development charges as a revenue tool help alleviate some of the pressure on taxes. And so going back to that triangle, no matter what, this infrastructure needs to be funded somehow. It's just about what's that appropriate level that comes from development development versus what's going to be put on the existing taxpayer.
Thanks. I'm just concerned about if we start, messing with our wastewater connections and development, like, I don't want to, lose on one if we have to start adjusting where we are at the total. So I just,
Yes, Councilor Pemberton.
So we're required to do the phase-in period, and we can start that at 80%. Is there any reason why we can't phase it in differently? And, even if we started at 70% or something, as long as we don't exceed what the maximum phase-in is allowed. So if we wanted to possibly give a bit of reduction to the start of development charges, we could possibly phase in a little lighter than that 80% to start off with.
Through the mayor, yes, that's correct.
Okay, we have April 10th as a presentation of a bylaw. So we have one meeting between that date and today. Is there anything further council requires from staff, any more information, or from Daryl to get our head totally wrapped around this thing so we are in a position to pass a bylaw on April 10th? We need to come to a final decision. I don't think tonight's that night. We have a councillor missing.
Could I ask one?
Yes, go ahead.
So sorry, I just thought of this here. So a reduction in, so the option was also presented at our previous meeting that with the CIP plan, we could put criteria in there offering a discount to development for industrial purposes, for industrial development charges. So would that require the municipality to draft or draw up a specific CIP plan for the municipality? We have one underway right now, but it's within a certain study area. So that would mean we would have to develop a different or another CIP plan. Is that correct?
Through the mayor, that is correct.
So that would just add on another layer of administration that we need to consider if we're not going to charge development charges for industrial purposes. That would just put another layer of administration on developing another CIP plan. So it's either we do it or we don't, one or the other.
and so these charges are calculated on what we see we're going to need because of growth, due to growth, right? If we're too high with our connection charges, which we don't want to get rid of, we can't lower these, but we could maybe consider doing the lower percentage at the start to keep it more in line with, like Deputy Mayor was saying, that if we're too high, if we look at those numbers and see where we want to be. Okay. I just want to make sure when I get them numbers, I'm looking at the right things.
So through the mayor, I think, so you can discount the charge as you see fit, right? Because realistically, you don't have to have development charges. And so you go from 0 to what we've calculated. And so typically our recommendation is to not touch water and wastewater because that is significant infrastructure required to accommodate development. Without that, development's not happening, right? And so, and that's typically the largest expenditures. And so that, as well as roads are very important as well. So if you're going to, what you can do as well is you can pick certain services and discount those services, right? And so potentially we could collect maybe less on the parks and recreation side, but leave the road side. So you can vary the charge based on the service as long as we don't go above what we've calculated in each of those categories.
I'll just comment on the connection charges. We know what situation we're in with wastewater. In my opinion, they should be higher. But when we combine that with development charges, then you get into perhaps developers will take a harder look at it. I think they expect development charges. Everybody I talk to, this is not something new. It's not that onerous. The financial situation we're in, we have to march forward. I want to speak to development charges on industrial land, and I'll pose a hypothetical. If we are lucky enough to have or attract an industrial business, we don't have development charges on industrial land. Maybe that's the carrot that attracts them. It could be, or one of many things we could do. So they come and set up shop and they build, and then, well, they get the first tax bill and we're going to appeal our tax assessment. We don't think we're industrial. And I can think of cases like this. So I would much prefer to leave development charges on industrial land and treat each one. I mean, we can waive it if we so see fit, or a future council can. Is that not correct?
So future council can go in and amend the bylaw and then bring in exemption for industrial? Yep.
I think you meant on one-on-one basis though, did you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can, but they have to does the municipality has to put the money into the development charge study, correct? Can they do it that way?
So through the mayor, so that typically they're not supposed to be, if it's in the bylaw as they pay the charge, then they would pay the charge and you shouldn't be considering them on a case by case basis. You get to do that if you put it through a grant program, through a CIP, then you can consider on a case by case basis. Either way, you're gonna have to fund the reserve fund with the development charges that were not paid because they're exempt. So.
Okay. Councillor Dreyfus.
I just want to reiterate, it's a difficult decision to make, but as a council, we chose to bring development charges forward. And by offering, I guess my thought process is we either have development charges or we don't. We made a decision to do the case study and to do the study. And we march forward, yes or no, that would be my option. And we start offering discounts. And well, we've moved away from the whole purpose of a development charge. And the phase in is in place already through the development study. And in my opinion, is we march forward. The only thing that's on the table, in my opinion, is the industrial land. So I think we make a decision and we move forward. So.
Okay, where do we go from here? We need to come to a decision. I don't think the decision is whether we're having development charges or not. I think that's well determined, as Councillor Dreyfus said. So do we want to debate this final question at the next meeting in order to be ready for the?
Yeah, I think we've got some time to think about it.
Okay,
We can talk about both the little longer phase-in period and maybe starting a little lower and also the industrial land.
okay, is that fair, Clerk Tara, to put that item on the agenda? And I would look for recommendations from staff as well, and Planner Tracy as well. And we'll come to a decision, and it's development charges on industrial land or not. I believe that's the only question at hand. Councillor Pembroke.
Yeah, I think the only other question is the possibility of the longer phase in.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you, Daryl. We're well informed. We've got a decision to make, and I think we've got all the cards in front of us. It's a matter of deciding which way to go. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that the public meeting for development charges background study closes at 5:34 PM. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, we're Is any staff present, Clerk Tara? That I don't see any.
Tim is online.
Is he?
If you would like to move his reports up.
Okay. With council's consideration, we'll adjust the agenda to accommodate staff. Is it just the one report he's got?
The Shackleton line, water line is
And we're going to do this one as well.
Yeah, those two.
We're going to jump to item 11 on the agenda. 11A is the Drinking Water Systems Annual Compliance Report, and there were some questions at the previous meeting, and I believe there's a bunch of people put their heads together in a room and sorted this thing out. So, Tim, do you have any comments on that report?
No, I don't, Mr. Mayor. It's exactly what you said. We held a small meeting after some of the questions were brought forward. We invited Deputy Mayor Loveland in to sit with us, and we got it all sorted out.
Okay, let's see. Oh, Tracy, you're good with the numbers? Deputy Mayor Loveland, you're good with the numbers?
I think we've gone through everything we could to look at them. I think still our water loss is extremely low, but I mean, that's what we have to work with is the numbers we have. So
Just gonna say, I don't think we're all good with the numbers, but it's the only numbers we can get from from the data we have. So yeah.
Well, I look at that as a credit to Tim and his crew. They don't lose any water. No other
We
explanation.
try not.
So
Okay,
is the report as it stands?
yes. Okay. Clerk Tara, resolution, please.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the Water Operations Manager, Drinking Water Systems Annual Compliance Report 2023, dated February 28th, 2024 for information. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. And item B is the Shackleton Line Water Line Tender results. That was included in our agenda package, but Tim, any comments?
No, just to fill everybody in, we had 14 takers, the tenders, and we actually had 10 of them, 10 bidders, which is probably the highest that I've been involved in. So, which is good. That's good for us.
Council have any questions? Okay, I think maybe they're a little more hungry for work, more contractors bidding. Tim,
Yes, this early in the year, which is, I'm glad we got this out when we did. You can tell by the numbers on there, you got some that are really hungry and some not so much. There's quite a range there, even from first to second.
okay, thank you. I think timing of tenders is something to keep in mind, and sooner the better.
I agree.
Okay, anything further? Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Dreyfus, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the Water Operations Manager titled Shackleton Line Water Line Tender Results dated March 13th, 2024 for information, and that council awards the contract for the Shackleton Line Water Line to Gillard Construction for the amount of $233,200 plus HST. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, and Tim, council was sent a note last week, something to do with you in September of this year. You've made it official.
It is official. Yes, it is. Yeah, it's
Well,
kind of hard to say, but I'm at that point.
It's not official because I refuse to accept the letter.
You did try. You did try.
Well, we knew it was coming, Tim, but still a bit of a shock. We'll plan something more formal later, but thank you for 35 years. And I've told you this many times, I could sleep at night when you were in charge of the water. And I thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. It's nice to hear. And I'd like to say, like I pointed out in the letter, I've worked with a lot of good councils over the year and seen a lot of changes. So I got a lot of memories.
Okay, all good, I hope.
All good. And I'd like to say our municipality is heading in the right direction. I'm
Okay,
leaving.
we hope so.
I'm leaving Mr. Mayor knowing that I'll sleep good at night too.
Okay,
So you really are, the employee of the year because, he tells me because of me, he can't sleep. So yeah, there you go. You are the favorite.
There you go.
yes, you are.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tim. Anything further for Tim on the agenda? Okay, we can cut you loose, Tim. Thank you.
Okay. Have a good night.
Yep. We can go to other staff reports. Item C, the County of Elgin Final Draft Official Plan. Planner Tracy, are you with us? I can see you, but I can't hear you. No. Did we mute her? Still on mute, Tracy. Okay. She's working on something. Can we slip down to item D while we're with staff reports? And it's the remote working arrangement policy. And I think CAO Tracy, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I just have to apologize. When we had our meeting last week, I thought this policy was in place, but it was just a test one that we were going to try to see if it was working. And so now, and then I asked Kate to do an actual policy. So that's what this is in front of you. So.
Okay, we've had it in our agenda package. Are there any questions from council? Deputy Mayor Loveland.
If my memory serves me right, we were supposed to get a copy of the county's new policy to review, and I don't think we got that.
Oh, I must have missed the ball on that one, on getting you that one. I'll get it for you, but.
Yeah.
I know I asked Kate to take this one and make it, because we obviously can't follow the policies they've got. They don't have, the counties, they don't have walk-in customers. They don't take tax bills, water bills, things like that. Yeah, I apologize for that. I didn't realize that.
Well, I don't know as I recall that we were going to provide it.
But I
The
certainly can.
Yeah, the direction from staff was to speak to the county because they had just approved one, and is rather than invent the wheel, is there something that we can use from that policy? That's the extent of my recollection. Now, it's council's wishes if you want to see it, or basically it's a made in Dutton Dunwich remote working arrangement policy. They are similar in some respects, but quite different in others.
I think this is very similar to the trial one that Kate brought to council in 2022, or so we were just gonna try it, see if it was gonna work. I think it's very similar. I did have her put in here that it could be at my discretion whether I stop it for summer months if we got too many people on vacation or things like that. But other than that, it's pretty similar to what was brought to council last. I can't remember what it was.
Councilor Griffin.
Yeah, I had a good look at the policy, and I think it provides enough leeway for internal office and for Tracy to have the ability to control how it's going to operate. So I think personally, I think Tracy needs that to manage the people in the office and to also have the ability to serve the public. So I'm in favor of the policy the way it's presented without having to go any further and looking at any other policies. So.
Any other comments? Seeing none. Clerk Tara, let's see if the resolution passes.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the Executive Assistant titled Remote Working Arrangements Policy dated March 13th, 2024 for information, and that Council adopt Policy A30, 2024 Remote Working Arrangement Policy. All in favor?
Could I have my name removed from the motion?
Sure. So we'll have it moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Pemberton. All in favor? And that's carried.
Planner Tracy, are you with us? You've got some problems. Okay, we'll come back to the County of Elgin. Draft official plan. Oh, there. We can see you. Can we hear you now, Tracy? No. Do you want us to come back to this, Tracy? Okay, we'll do that. Okay. Nice. Item 7 on the agenda, we do have a delegation, and they're from Aqua. It's the operation and maintenance proposal information. It's scheduled for 6, but we're going to go early for you. We have Robin and Dale. I don't know who's going to present, or both of you, but both of you can come up. Yep, we do. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. You sure? Sure. Thank you for coming.
Having this evening.
I don't think introductions are required. Do you know everybody around the city?
I don't believe that we haven't met Councillor Dreyfus. So, and Dale LeBritton is the regional hub manager for our Southwest region for Aqua. So he manages from like the Niagara Falls area all the way to Brights Grove and down the other side of West Lorne. That's kind of what the outer perimeters of our client area. And myself, I'm Robin Trepanier, and I am the regional business development manager for the Southwest region and the Essex County area as well. I take care of both areas. Both Dale and I are operators as well. Dale for many more years than myself, but I did operate in the Emmitsburg area in wastewater mostly for a decade before I came into this role. So today we really just wanted to just kind of give you a little bit of a summary of what Aqua is. I know some of you already probably know that, but in case not everyone does, we want to just do a little bit of an overview, and then we can kind of open up to questions that some of you have, and I think maybe you have maybe multiple questions, I'm not sure, but we're here prepared to kind of answer a lot of that, so.
I'll just interrupt for a minute. Tracy provided everyone with a draft agreement.
Yes.
So everyone's had a chance to review it and had some time, and they've all done their homework. I know they have. So just so you know, there may be some questions coming from that.
No, I'm prepared for that.
Okay, thank you.
Not a problem. So you can switch to the next slide if you want. So basically, just Aqua was a big organization that was formed actually after the Walkerton disaster. The provincial government decided to start an agency so that municipalities would have an option that was basically government backed to help them reduce maybe their risk and help guide them through all of the legislation that came after. So that's kind of what we do. And I think over the years, things have grown substantially within the agency, and we've basically taken on more roles and options for our clients as well. Our staff, we have about over 600 licensed operators across the province, and around 160 clients across the province that are pretty much municipal based. So we do have private sector, commercial and industrial clients as well. But the mainstay is municipal contracts for water and wastewater.
So we're a Schedule II provincial agency. So we are part of the Ministry of Environment at arm's length from the inspectors, but we are a provincial agency.
So we're really governed a lot under that, and annually audited by the Treasury Board. As far as that agreement that you've all been through, that doesn't happen unless it's approved by the Treasury Board. If I was to take that agreement and change it up a fair bit, it would have to go back to them for approval. We have lots of clients that want to use their own contracts, and we can do that, or at least we can ask, and it has to go through the Treasury Board for them to evaluate the risk for the government, and we have to get their approval before we can actually use it. That takes sometimes 8 weeks or more to happen, but it is doable. So, okay, next slide. So we are basically the largest water and wastewater operator across the country, really, in terms of the number of clients and staff that we have compared to other private organizations across the country. And we have lots of those here in Ontario as well. Our business model is set up on what they call a spoken hub format. So basically Dale has a main office and staff here, and we have lots of support staff in terms of administration, compliance, capital works managers, mechanics. In some of our other areas, we have electricians and plumbers, things like that. But basically we share across our region. So he has his area broke into 5 or 6 little clusters. And within that cluster, there's like a main staff, and then some of those extra services, we still share people across the little clusters that we have. So it just allows us to operate for less because we're sharing all that staff across the board. So we can take on a smaller contract beside a larger contract because we're sharing all those people. So it's just allows us to extend savings onto all of our clients as well. And some of the other things that we have internally, they always put a little notation there about our emergency response team. They call it AWERT. So we've got several trailers and some teams on the ground that are in operations, some managers that are seasoned operators themselves and are ready to go kind of at the drop of a hat to help communities. So if they have water lines freeze in the winter, or we have big ice storm, if we have hydro issues, things like that, they are ready to go out, and they have various trailers that they take out with them to help those communities get back online. So, and in terms of our municipal clients, it's a lot of money that we're managing on behalf of our clients across the province too. So the map just gives you a little bit of an idea as to the concentration of where we are. Okay, next slide. So aside from just our regular operations and maintenance contracts that we would handle with you, there's lots of other services that Aqua has kind of fine-tuned over the years in terms of engineering, and within that engineering department, there's lots of things that they can offer you assistance with. They can offer you assistance with EAs. We've also, they'll help with like funding applications if you're looking to apply for money with the government. And as far as the whole engineering end of things, in terms of process, if you are kind of wondering where you're at with some of your facilities and you'd like evaluations to see if you need to move forward with making some upgrades, those kinds of things. They'll help with all of your capital delivery and also putting together, extensive capital lists. That's something that we do here internally every year. By the end of October, our team would give you basically a 6-year rolling updated capital list for you to evaluate. And, it's totally up to you guys to decide what you want to do. And what you agree to, we move on with that following year then. In terms of our IT department, anything SCADA related, our maintenance program, those kinds of things. So what we would do if we came in is we would come in and we would tag everything. And we would put together our own maintenance routine. And you can get reports from that and see our work order system and what's been done and what needs to be done, all those kinds of things. We do most of our own training. We have a full training department. I actually had one of my clients in Essex region last week. They've asked if their people could join our training. So they pay for it. But when we are in town and we're training our own local staff, if we have extra seats, then we then extend it to our clients as well, so they can put their staff on. We've got lots of clients that they take care of their own distribution system and we operate their treatment plant, that kind of thing. So their distribution staff can join. And we have a specialty conveyance department as well. So if there's things, if you wanted your fire hydrants painted or annual inspections, a little bit of maintenance, those kinds of things, they can come into the community and take care of those things on a piece by piece basis, basically. I'm not sure if I forgot anything else. That's your asset. Well, I already kind of mentioned the asset management planning. Okay, next slide. So this is really just the list of clients that Dale has under his auspices here in the Southwest region. So you can kind of see you're kind of surrounded. We've kind of got a lot of things going on here in the area, but and some of them have been with us for a long time. So we just celebrated our 30th anniversary last November, actually, since all of that. Some of them have been here with us since then, so. And you can see just some of our private contracts at the end of the list there that are here in this area. Enbridge, we take care of several sites for them, about 7 across the province. Some of them are storm pond related, I think too. So we're I know the storm pond situation is growing within our agency right now because of all the new legislation with that. Okay, next slide. So actually, these are the top picture is a picture of a lot of the staff that Dale has here in the area. That was at Tri-County Water Plant. And then the photo below is actually up in Haldeman at the water treatment plant in Anacote. And that's the staff from Haldeman and Norfolk. We had a staff day when we had a visit with our president at the time, actually, in both of those areas. So, like I said, you guys are kind of surrounded here. We've got stuff going on in Southold, we've got West Eldon, we've got Southwest Middlesex, and beyond. And like I said, we're about 6 clusters here, and about 46 facilities, 17 water, 25 wastewater, and 4 that are storm related, that are the Enbridge ones that I spoke about. We've got about 62 staff across the whole region. So, next slide. So as far as your situation is concerned, we have lots of options, and that's kind of something that has to be finalized and sorted out. And that's something that we can't do on our own. And we just need, a little more back and forth and just fine tuning exactly what that's going to look like. So just some of the things, we're going to act representative with the MACP. We're going to be here anytime that they're doing inspections, that kind of thing. We offer our 5-day on site and 24/7 outside of that. And, we're always going to be checking equipment and taking care of all of your compliance needs, those kinds of things. And being able to kind of analyze all the data that we collect from your equipment. And in order to maintain compliance and do all the reporting that we have to do to the government. You know, and any sampling goes with all of that as well. And, you know, we have the ability to procure chemicals. We buy chemicals across the agency in bulk. So, you know, some of our clients feel like they're getting a better price with chemical if they're buying it through us. But I know from our site tour that you guys, I think, purchase from Ancom in London. And it sounds like you guys have a pretty good arrangement with them for everything. So I know that was one thing that was mentioned that probably wouldn't be part of what we're doing. We would probably continue with that. But again, just so that you know, it's an option. So, next slide. And in terms of reporting, we have a really wonderful compliance team. We have lots of really great compliance teams, but Dale has an exceptionally good compliance team here in the Southwest region. And these are just some of the outcomes from our ministry inspections for the clients that are close here that you know over the last couple of years. So that, of course, is what we always strive for. We don't always hit 100, but we've been doing that here locally for the last little bit. So next slide. And as far as any agreement is concerned, I know one of the questions that was brought up was a term, and it's totally flexible. That's totally up to you guys. Sure, I like to have as many 10-year terms as I can possibly get under my belt, but I'm, you know, it's a first time round. You know, a lot are 5. And, you know, I even have had some that are less than that, especially when they're starting, especially private contracts, not so much municipal. Usually with municipals, we'll get 5 years set up and go from there. And maybe after you've had us operating for 5 years, you know, may have a little more, you know, feel a little more secure with what we do and roll over into something longer than that. But that's always up to you guys. In terms of types of contracts, we basically have a couple different types of contracts. The fixed price situation where we would set things up originally and move forward annually based on an increase, an inflationary increase based on CPI. And, you know, that would basically be it. We would go like that unless there was certain things that changed. If the scope of work changed, we have a union internally, and if OPSU does anything like what they've done recently, then we have to make changes. Based on the fact that we are a cost recovery agency, we're not for-profit company, we do have to cover our costs. And that just is all kind of part of what we have to do to make that happen. A cost plus contract is different in that we would establish annually what our costs, what our forecasted costs are for the coming year. And we would agree on that amount with you, you know, long before the end of the year. And at the end of the year, that following year, we would evaluate what our costs were and we would reconcile one way or the other, whether it was you issuing a check for something over or us issuing a check because we were under. On top of that, there is a management fee that we would set up annually as well. And it's the only thing that would be directly related to that inflationary factor. So often it's a percentage based on what that estimate is every year. And that would be paid out monthly with the O&M amount as well. Would all come in one invoice like that and spread out over the 12 months. And as far as the scope of work is concerned, like, you know, we've already discussed that. We can do everything or we can do whatever you want us to do. So we need to just establish exactly what that is. And I'm not just sure where all of you are in that process in terms of figuring out where you're at now and what you could be at if it was different, and just kind of measuring all of that internally yourself. And like I mentioned, annually we do major maintenance listing that would come out to you by the end of October, and you know what we thought of everything and what we were recommending, and then you guys could decide as a council what you wanted to, if you were able to spend it all, or if you wanted to, or if you wanted to put some of it off, that kind of thing. But nothing would happen until all of you guys approved everything. So next slide. So this is really just kind of an example of, the kinds of things that, what it would kind of look like. Okay, next slide. And this is just a little bit more about the ORT teams across the province. It just kind of shows you the equipment that they have and where they kind of keep it located across the province. And next slide. So just to kind of wrap all of it up, we really, we love to be part of our communities wherever they are. And often our staff are also residents and involved in our communities across the province. Many of them are very passionate about what they do. Many have gone to school to learn about water and wastewater, the environment, and this is kind of where they've ended up. HAWK was a great organization to work for. If those are some of the things that interest you. And there's always lots of room for growth within our organization. So I feel like it's a great place for young people to come. And I think the only thing that we kind of struggle with a little bit is wages, because municipal employees typically, in a lot of cases, will make more money that are doing the same work. So I know sometimes we lose people to municipalities, but I know of recent, they're gonna have to change a little bit of that here to the tune of about 9.5% in terms of our operations teams on the ground with Bill 124 and all that stuff. But I'm sure many of you have read in the news. So anyways.
OPSU and the government agreed to a 9.5% increase retroactive back to 2022. So we're part of OPSU, so that's a lot. It's a big union, but it's 9.5% is what they agreed to.
So
everybody's wages within Aqua at the operations level are going up by 9.5%, which will bring us up to and hopefully above some of the municipalities that we're losing people to.
So, in the past, it's been 1%. That's right. 1%. So anyways, so you can go to the next slide if you like. So these are the other aspect of our board team is one of those additional things that we do, but we also have we have 4 water buggies like you see down below there with Dale and Sam Smith. Actually, that was at the Worthies Golf Tournament last year in St. Thomas. We have 4 of those buggies across the province, and we also have some portable on-tap stations that we can stand up on the back of a pickup truck. That is a water bottle refill station as well. That's all kind of signed up with Aqua all over it. And I know Dale has one of those here in his area, so we kind of share it across the area, but those buggies, we have 4 of them across the province. And I do a lot of the booking for that particular unit. So I try to get it booked up solid within my 2 areas for the season so that we get to keep it down here. But it does often have to venture out into Trojan Highlands. Yes. I have both of his units. I got one in West Lauren and one in Lyco. So, but I can definitely put you on the list for another year. Yeah, I rotate it. So, and the other thing we have is our educational trailer that you can see lots of photos of there. So we take that to children's water festivals across the province. And we will be in St. Thomas in Pinafore Park for the Huron-Albion Children's Water Festival in May for 4 days. And we open it up. It's like an outdoor classroom, and we bring in some of our local operators to chat with the kids while they're there. And it's a great tool for public outings, events. I've had it to a few. Last year we had 2 public open houses. One of them at the wastewater plant in Simcoe, and one of them was actually at just a public awareness day in Erin, Ontario, where they opened up their public works yard and brought all their heavy equipment out for the kids to check out. And it was amazing because the people, they come through the trailer just as eager to learn as the kids do. I always kind of get a kick out of the adults in it, but talk to them about all kinds of things, like right down to what they should flush down the toilet and what they shouldn't flush down the toilet, that kind of stuff. So lots of things like that. So next slide. So basically, just to kind of sum up, like I said, we are in our 30th year this year, and we, you know, basically are kind of willing to solve all kinds of issues for you with the help of some of our other departments in our corporate office, like I had previously mentioned as well. We talked about our shared services model and how we kind of can promote saving money across the board for both our clients as well as ourselves by using that. And, you know, taking us on is kind of helping in terms of the risk when municipalities are operating things on their own. Some choose to continue with that and some decide not to so much. So in terms of our compliance records, I showed you a little bit of that, and I can always open up books and show you lots more of that. But usually the numbers are pretty good, pretty consistent. And in terms of, you know, essential services, if we were in a striking situation, our managers would come into place. We kind of have plans in place for those moments like that. So it's not something that I ever want the clients to worry about. So, and like I said, you know, we just kind of like to be part of the community and get involved in things that are going on here. And often our staff, it's like you guys, you have your own local staff that live here and part of the community too, and says there as well. Okay, the next slide. So, who wants to start off with the first question?
You need me to grab them first?
No. I think we're ready for it.
Thank you, Robin, for that presentation. And Dale, have a seat. Robin, let's have a discussion. I'm sure there are questions.
Yeah, consider it an interview if you'd like to.
So that's good.
Oh.
So I'm going to open up the floor to council and any comments or questions. Deputy Mayor Loveland.
Thanks for the presentation. I guess I've been through this before. It was no side of the desk at the time, but certainly know Dale very well. A couple of questions we've been toying with, I guess, and I think they've already been run past you is, I think we'd really like to look at just water right now, and probably move down the road in the future to sewer as we get a few more questions answered as where we're going there. So is that something you guys would look at if we're going to do the water operations now?
Yeah, we're quite prepared. I think we understand where this was going and what we really need to work towards. And Robin spoke a little bit about this, is to nail down a scope of work. You know, we've put a price on the table, but they're really, you know, this is a little bit different than what we're used to. Usually there's an RFP and, you know, a full scope of work and everybody's bidding on the same thing. So we really need to nail down that scope of work so that we can provide a price on the water side. So we're prepared to do that. But that's where we need to go at this point to really figure out what the price is. We threw a price on the table based on sort of a best guess of doing everything at this point. So that is the next step, yes.
Okay. And I guess the other question that I don't talk as council, but I mean, if we decide to go, I don't think we have to worry about any staff transfers. I think we could find spots for, it's like, one, of course, Tim is retiring.
Right.
And with Brian there, I think Brian used to work for you, but we'll need someone to do the locates, put in meters and those sort of things.
Right.
And we have one guy that's part-time on the water, and Brian could back up Archie on the plant. That was sort of where we're headed. So I don't think we'd have to worry about transferring any employees, but so that's.
We have a
good for
similar
us, yeah.
similar working arrangement with the employee in Southold as well, so. They kind of look after locates and, shut offs and turn ons and meter work and that kind of stuff. So any of that stuff that's not kind of covered by the regulations, I'm happy not to have to do that. Anything that's kind of, we have to document, it's covered by the regulations. That's where I kind of draw the line as to who does what. So there should be lots to do to keep somebody going with locates these days on its own is a lot. So
I guess we'll have to, probably can't answer this question, but one of the, the things we're trying to get our mind around is what would be an extra, but I guess that's going to come along with the scope of work that you're doing. But normally, say a normal fixed contract.
yeah, so normally, most of the stuff is covered during the 7:30 to 4 o'clock sort of idea. So when we look at out of scope stuff, it has to do with, like, we can include call outs in this as well. I have some contracts where call outs after hours are included that I got to get my crystal ball a little bit and try and figure out how many call outs you'd have in a year. So with a fixed price contract, the risk is on me. And I have to come up with a price because it's fixed to cover off anything that I might see happening in the future. With a cost plus, the risk is sort of shared. Like Robin said, it's reconciled at the end of the year. It's much more transparent as far as the expenses go. We present the expenses on a quarterly basis. But anything after hours is out of scope. Water main breaks are out of scope. And what happens with the neighboring municipalities is it's sort of the municipality and Aqua get together to resolve water main breaks. If you need any swabbing done, engineering, that kind of stuff's out of scope. But most of the process we do during the day is all included. So there's not a lot of out of scope other than call outs that would hit every month as a additional invoice. So
Hydrant flushing and maintenance, is that something we could retain, or is that something that crosses your line?
yeah, that crosses my line and it's caused me problems in the past. So we flush hydrants twice a year. Painting and maintenance of the hydrants is usually out of scope and something we can hand off to your staff. There's not a lot of maintenance that needs to happen to hydrants, but periodically there is. As far as flushing and getting residuals and that sort of stuff, that is something that I like to keep on. Dead end flushing is one that I've given up in the past, but again, it requires getting chlorine residuals and that kind of stuff. I could be talked into that one. I think you have 32 dead ends in your system. But that's the kind of stuff that we need to sit down and figure out. You've got, can't remember now, 16 sample stations in your system. So all that kind of stuff we need to sit down and figure out what can be done by us, what can be handed off, if anything, to the municipality.
Well, how about hydrant repair? Is that
Yeah.
something we could do?
Yeah, you can do it. I don't know that, Robin talked about our conveyance group. We do have operators. Repair of anything is a dying art, I'm afraid, with, how do I say this politely, with today's youth. And a lot of it has become sort of specialty type work, depending on what kind of hydrant you have in your system. I'm not sure if your current staff are able to do that or not.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, so that's something that we certainly could let staff do it. Again, there's not a whole lot of, unless the fire department breaks a hydrant, there's not a whole lot of issues with fire hydrants these days. Just
Yard maintenance, and they're all Canada valve.
Yeah. So you grease the operating nut and the caps once a year, and away you go for the most part. But
I think that's all the questions I got for now.
Okay, so a lot of these points you're talking about, we're not going to solve around a council table. We need to
I don't think so.
get a working group
Yes.
together. So council will come up with who would be on that, or who would you recommend?
Well, we have lots of RFPs and contracts that sort of over the years have really pulled the scope together. So, I don't think it's going to take much. But you certainly can recommend. And what Ken and I just talked about has done 80% of it already.
Yeah.
So we just need to, figure out, okay, locates in or out. It sounds like locates are out. Hydrant maintenance, there's not much there. It's just a matter of sitting down and saying, okay, everybody agrees that this is in, this is out, and then I can base my price on that. And we haven't done that to this point. So an hour's meeting, Tracy, Tim, myself, Robin, I think it's done. Whoever else wants to sit in on it, it won't take much.
Because basically, we just want anything that has to do with the regulation, we want to do that. And we want to do it from start to finish. So if there's things that can be done outside of that, that you could keep your staff busy and not have to.
That's where the regulation is pointing to. The regulations they do not want multiple groups of people working in a system. So the better we can keep it separate, and the risk and documentation part is on me. That's why you're paying me. So
We have a lot of growth going on in Dutton Dunwich right now, and we're dealing with site plan approvals and all that. Would you play a role in looking at the site plans and what's required? And could you speak to that? What would Aqua bring to that approval process?
yeah, we don't, at my level, I don't get involved in too much of that. I will look at plans and see if equipment's missing, and when it comes to assumption time, we can get involved at that point. At the corporate level, they would get more involved in that, but it would be that's something that you would pay extra for at that point, to get our engineering group involved at that point. But we do get involved in, if you're building a new sewage plant, Sam and I would look at those drawings throughout the stages that they're drawn up and make sure that it makes sense from the operations side, before it gets final approval. We're involved in the construction. So when construction happens, we're on site making sure that things are going the way they should go. And there's a set of eyes there that seen this before. So yeah, we are involved. But when it comes to the real engineering part of it, that goes upstairs above me.
Okay. Does Aqua have any pull with the government on funding requests?
Sure how far I should go with this one.
We can go into closed here.
No, Aqua,
They lend money.
Aqua does lend money. That's where I was going with this, is that we do have money to lend, not a whole lot of money to lend. But there are options. Unfortunately, our rates aren't any better than anybody else's. So there's no real benefit to us lending you money. And there's always a stipulation of signing on with us when we send you some cash. So I don't know who has the ability to bend anybody's ear anymore, but I'm not sure that we have much full these
No.
days.
We're at the same conventions where they all are, that you guys are at. You guys get more time with them than we do. So,
I
They're
know,
not listening to us.
you know, I know our CEO and VPs sit with the deputy ministers and the ministers and chat about that, but I don't know how much pull we actually have. But unless it's really hitting the fan, then they come to us at that point. But
Was there a time when Hawk was involved with interest-free monies? Like funding projects through the government? Has that occurred
I don't think
in the past?
not that I'm aware of. I've been around since Aqua started in '92. Before that, we were at different agencies. I forget what we were all before that, but well, we were the Ministry of Environment before that, and then Ministry of Water Resources or something in between. But I don't recall anything like that. We've been involved in some different deals with different communities over the past, which is still 20 years later, is still in the news, and people have reneged on paying and loans and stuff. But I don't recall any of that. But
I'd heard that somewhere, but nothing to it then.
not that I'm aware, but I started out as an operator, so I wasn't around in this role all this time, but I certainly can ask, but I don't know.
Okay. As you know, we are in a spot on our wastewater treatment plant. We have to do an expansion and in 2 phases. We're right up against the wall on that as far as capacity. So that's where we're at on that one. And that's why I ask, is there anything that Aqua can do to assist in that process?
You know, I can speak with Jeff and Terry, who are the VPs above me, and I don't think so, but I can certainly ask to see what can be done. You can leave that with me, and Jeff's off till next week, but I can bring that forward.
Okay, fair enough. Anything further? Deputy Mayor,
Go ahead.
Councillor Dreyfus.
Yeah, just a couple of questions here. So the comparison between the fixed pricing and the cost plus contract. So our water system has scored really high in infrastructure. It's the highest, I believe, in all categories of our asset management of our municipality. So the impact of cost plus contract, I would imagine the condition or the quality of the water system has an impact on a cost plus contract. So you would assess that so the cost could increase if it was a water system that was not in as good a shape. So last year I think we had 1 water main break, and all in all. So I guess my question would be fixed pricing. You're going to obviously protect yourself through fixed pricing because you're carrying the risk of pricing.
That's correct.
So if we did a cost plus contract, we would probably, we're assuming risk because we don't know so obviously the condition of the water line and the quality of our water system could keep our costs under control for a few more years, right? So that would be logical.
Yes.
Logical statement.
Yep.
So the only thing that is impacting a fixed price would be the CIP, is what I believe you said. Any work changes, and then the OPSU. So how long is the OPSU agreement in place? The new OPSU?
Well, that's the other point is the current OPSU agreement ends at the end of this year. So they opened up an existing collective agreement and gave them 9.5% retroactive back to 2022, which was the beginning of the 3-year period, which these collective agreements usually are. So in 2025, that'll be the start of another 3-year collective agreement. So typically what we've seen over the last few collective agreements has been a 1%, 1.5% increase to the staff. But this year, they opened it up and that's what they came up. I think they started at an 18% request and they settled on 9.5 retroactive.
So the other part to that is combining wastewater and water. Does that impact our price? So like is it going to be a competitive advantage for us to do both?
Yeah, and that's what I said in the beginning. If we can do them both at the same time, you know, what we try and do is figure out how many staff it's going to take to operate a project or two projects combined. So you got to take into consideration holidays, people being sick, emergencies, all that kind of stuff, and how many bodies it's going to take. And if you're looking at one project, it's always more expensive. It takes more time to do that than it is to combine two of them. So if you were to combine two of them, you know, those two people on the water and wastewater, just because they're at the wastewater doesn't mean they can't work at this on the water side.
Okay.
And if you look at municipalities, a lot of municipalities, staff don't cross over. This person never works with this person. As Robin says, with our hub and spoke, and with our operators carrying certification in water and wastewater both, and we're always rotating staff because they're on call for all these different municipalities. This person is helping this person when we're flushing hydrants. Flushing hydrants takes time and you have to do it all in kind of a 2-week period. So, and then the water guy can also help the sewage guy. So the more we can combine, more efficiencies there are. I can't tell you exactly what that would be right now, but we, in the beginning, when we were asked to kind of put a price together, that was the struggle that I had. If it's just water, then, you know, I have to put this price together and it's going to be a little higher than it would be if I had water and sewage combined. That kind of answers your question.
Yes, it does. Yeah. So I think
and sorry, just to finish that off, you know, I know we can revisit that. You know, if the sewage came to us in 3 years, we certainly couldn't revisit what the price is for the water and then combine them at that point. I'm not trying to strong arm you into saying you got to do both now. You certainly could go back 3 years or however long it is and say, okay, now we're going to combine them. What's the efficiencies at that point? So
Right.
it can happen down the road.
so getting back to Mayor Hens's question about so let's say you were to do wastewater and you're doing all the readings and all the reports, the official reports. Does your report carry more weight than our report when it comes? So let's say we're over capacity and we have months that we're over capacity. So does an Aqua report carry more weight than our official reports for the government funding at all? No, not at all. Okay. So and then on, I guess my final question is, compared fixed pricing to cost plus, what would be your preference for this municipality?
I'm a bit of a different bird when it comes to contracts. I have a lot of cost plus contracts in my region. Not everybody in the other regions at the corporate level necessarily agrees with the cost plus, or I like them personally. I have them in Southwest Middlesex, Elmer, on either side of you. Like I said, it allows for transparency with expenses. It certainly takes some of the risk off me, but there really has to be a good understanding and a good relationship for cost plus to work. Because if people on either side aren't trusting the numbers, then partnership kind of falls apart. But it's reconciled at the end of the year again, and you're privy to all the expenses at that point. For me, it really takes a lot of the guesswork and looking into a crystal ball. But it is more of a partnership, I think, than a fixed price. And if everybody's on the same page, I think it works well.
Any other questions from council?
Just to follow up to that then, and Dale, so you could give us a price either way. And we could have a look at it.
Anything further? Time's marching on. We just received our official notice from Tim. He's leaving us the end of September, or maybe the 1st of September.
Okay.
So my thoughts are we need to get that working group, not around a council table. We're not going to solve the issues at hand. And somehow we'll figure out what we want from participants from Dutton Dunwich. And I think we need to sit down and come up with some actual numbers to work with. So if you're in agreement with that, we'll have staff reach out to you and set up a time in order to start getting closer to where we need to be.
I guess the only major item that I think council needs to decide on is the length, the term of the contract. I think once you've nailed that down, the rest is easy to.
Okay. What's your time frame?
Whatever your time.
Whenever, okay, that's good to hear. I think council's in agreement that we can't procrastinate. We need to get going.
Was there any questions on the draft contract itself?
I had a couple, but you answered them, and one was a training, and you've covered that.
Okay.
Because we do have employees that have worked hard in water, and they want to maintain their certification as well. So that is possible in this agreement.
So what we do, or what Dale could do, and any of his managers can sign, but they only are going to sign with our employees. Like if it's your other employees, like they can't sign for time and that kind of thing on their licenses like that. But they could still come to our training session. So if we had a training day and we brought one of our people from our training department down to teach a course at Tri-County Water Plant, and you guys had somebody here that could benefit from that training, we can let you know. And when we have extra seats, then we can book you guys into that. Like that would be something you would get a bill from our training department for a person's day of training, but.
We always have empty seats.
They have to have so many hours to keep their license, right? They have to do it. So how does our guy keep his license if you guys aren't signing off?
On the sign off, there's 3 boxes to check. One is if the person signing is the ORO of the person filling out the paperwork, or is the manager and ORO of the person, or just the manager. So for instance, your person would be reporting to somebody. That somebody just needs to sign off. That's
Which would be one of your guys? No? Oh, just be like me maybe or
Like
something.
your
Okay,
public works director.
okay,
Or-
gotcha. Just want to make sure that if
There's
they,
three- there's
they
three.
would stay on and do maintenance and stuff for us, but I don't want them to lose their license either.
The manager doesn't have to be an operator.
Okay, perfect. That's
Is
all
what
I
you're saying,
need. I
right?
just need
That's
to
what
know.
I'm saying. The only thing I'll caution everybody on is that you're dealing with a certification branch, and it's up to them whether they deem that person to have enough experience in that system. They'll always keep their license, but they'll probably not be able to upgrade their license. Because to upgrade your license, you have to be doing the work that a normal operator would be doing in that system. And obviously that wouldn't occur because they're not on call, they're not doing the day-to-day stuff. So they'll be able to keep their license, but I think they would have a hard time. I'm just speculating based on what I've seen before. They'd have a tough time getting to the next level if they wanted to.
So if they
But you
want to
guys-
keep their license or.
You guys had,
No,
your
probably
operations
leave.
had level 2s, I think, right?
Yeah, so they're
So,
probably
and
as high as they're gonna go.
Yeah, your system is a level 2.
Yeah.
So they could do a level 3 if they wanted to get that in before Tim retires.
Anything further? Councillor Pemberton.
I guess my only comment, I agree with the working group and everything else, but with the people that were said, it didn't sound like there was a council member on that. And I think there should be at least one council member in that working group.
Yeah, okay, I'll leave it to staff to pull that together. If council is in agreement with that, and I agree. So we'll,
Comment, do you need to know the length of term prior to that we're considering as council for to come up with proper numbers?
Proper numbers, it helps me out if I know it's what the kind of length of term is, but as far as the scope of work, no.
Okay.
okay. We will get back to you.
Okay.
We'll put a working group together and we'll try and narrow this thing down.
Okay,
Perfect.
Okay,
thank you,
Thank you
Mr.
very
Mayor.
much.
So,
thank you.
okay.
Yeah, take care.
See you later. Thanks a lot.
So we'll leave it to Tracy to pull that group together. Okay, let's go. Tracy, can we hear you?
Yes, can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. So let's flip
Excellent.
back. I'm all over the place, but we're going to go and then we'll go into closed immediately so we don't have to keep Brent forever. The staff reports the County of Elgin final draft official plan. Tracy, I'd like you to comment on that or lead that discussion.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So the purpose of this report was to just provide you with a very brief summary of what they're calling their final draft. This is a project that has been going on and we had some consultation previously. And this is the sort of the final statutory public meeting that's required. We're a commenting agency. So this is our opportunity to provide the county with any technical comments. Overall, the county's remaining as sort of a hands-off kind of policy. They really have said a lot of the details should come out of your local tier official plan, such as like severance policies or permitted uses in different designations. The one thing that the county does do is guide through any urban boundary expansion. And right now they're taking the position that even with the consideration of some of this new commercial and industrial development in the region, that Dutton Dunwich has enough land for industrial, commercial, and housing. But they did leave the door open a little bit that says that the local tiers can go ahead at any time and redesignate lands to expand an urban boundary. So that sort of gives us an idea of like if we wanted to grow a little bit more than what we have already now, then that option is open. So I'm happy to answer any particular questions that you might have, or happy to forward any comments to the county tomorrow prior to their deadline for their statutory commenting period. Oh, and there is an open house and public meeting scheduled this month as well, if anybody wanted to attend.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, there is a public open house on March 19th at 5 p.m. And that will be at the county building. The public meeting of the county will be on March 26th. So any questions from council for Planner Tracy? Any comments you want to forward to the county? I don't see any, Tracy. Is there anything that you think we should address?
No, there's nothing in particular that I'm concerned about.
Okay, this thing's a long time in the making. If there's nothing further, Tara, resolution, please.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the planner titled County of Elgin Final Draft Official Plan dated March 13th, 2024 for information. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, thank you. I think we're going to go into closed here so we don't keep staff around any longer, if that's okay.
Do you want regional or to?
Is she? Are you okay?
I said, I don't think water excites Brent because I looked over and you were like.
Where is that report? Yes.
In correspondence. Of course, we have to just go through correspondence.
Okay, let me find it.
Do it all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, have her come in.
Just do us all.
Okay.
Get Tara back on track here.
Okay, we're gonna start at the beginning then. Okay, item 8 is correspondence. The Township of Perry request to the province to amend the blue box regulation for ineligible sources. Any questions or comments from council on that one? I don't see any.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the township of Perry requesting the province amend Ontario Regulation 391/21 blue box so that producers are responsible for the end-of-life management of recycling products from all sources, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Karen Vecchio, MP, and the township of Perry. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. Item B, the county of Renfrew, rural and small urban municipalities, affordability of water and wastewater systems. Anyone care to comment on that one? Near and dear to our heart. Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Dreyfus, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the county of Renfrew to advocate to the provincial and federal levels of government to make them aware that rural and small urban water and wastewater systems are financially unsustainable, and advocate to the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, the Rural Ontario Municipalities Association, and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities to examine if the unaffordability of water and wastewater system operational costs is systemic provincially and nationally, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Karen Vecchio, MP, AMO, Roma, FCM, and the town of Plimpton, Wyoming, and the county of Renfrew. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. Item C is Hydro 1, the Longwood to Lakeshore project. Tracy and I were on a conference call or a Zoom on that item. The tract of the power lines is still in question. And one track brings it over the far western corner of Dunwich. There are some public meetings coming up on that. Anybody wishes to attend, and maybe you've seen that in the emails. Any other questions on that? Or okay, Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that correspondence item 8C from Hydro 1 be received and filed. All in favor? And that's carried.
The town of Lincoln, urgent need for increased funding to libraries and museums in Ontario. Anyone to comment on that? Councillor Dreyfus.
I'll just make a comment. I'm quite familiar with the CMOG funding that museums and museums in particular get and libraries. So Backstage is involved in this process as well. And I think they receive somewhere in the neighborhood of $7,500 a year. So the number, it hasn't increased much over the past years, especially with all inflationary pressures and so on. So I think we really need to stand behind this one. Culture and heritage is very important to most communities. So I fully support this. So.
Thank you for that. Any other comments? If they got more support, then maybe we would have to provide less. Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the town of Lincoln urging the provincial government to support increasing funding to both public libraries and community museums, recognizing these institutions as national assets and strategically investing in their potential will contribute significantly to renewing post-pandemic social cohesion, economic well-being, and community resilience. And that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Karen Vecchio, MP, and the town of Lincoln. All in favor? And that's carried.
Nothing. Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Dryfout, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution of the Municipality of Brighton requesting the Government of Ontario to initiate the transfer of responsibilities in the interest of creating a more coherent and standardized regulatory framework for ride-sharing services across the province, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Karen Vecchio, MP, and the Municipality of Brighton. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. And item F is the Dutton Dunwich Minor Ball Association, a diamond improvement project update and a fund reallocation request. So we were provided with some information here in our agenda package, Mary Jo, but I'm just going to turn it over to you and tell us what you got in the works here.
Sure, sounds good. I don't know if anyone's been past the diamonds, but even since I issued this letter last week, they actually made some progress because we had some nice weather. So the backstop posts are all up. They just need to put the remaining of the netting, the fencing up on Diamond 1. They got the roof on, so it's that nice blue color. They haven't trimmed it out yet, like you can still see the lumber and that sort of thing. And they haven't got the front yet on of those, but they're much wider, much longer. And so once that's all done, I assume the next step is the player benches. Obviously the holdup there was just, they started working, it was frozen and then it thawed and then it rained and with the clay and whatnot. So I'm assuming they're kind of holding off just to see. I know Jeff's been talking with them and talking with Gerald and Dan on when they're coming on next to kind of finish that off. But it's supposed to be done before April 1st. So that means we're in good shape and that will be ready to go. We don't start using that diamond until end of April-ish, but maybe earlier this year with the warm weather, but usually it's end of April because our travel teams start practicing and whatnot in May. So that's well underway. As far as Diamond 2, we've been continuing to fundraise for that on our own and seeking requests from or sponsorships from businesses and any funding grants that we can. So I still have quite a few grants that are out for that one. And we were obviously hoping to get Simpson to do the dugouts and the backstop of Diamond number 2 while they were already here. Again, that was optimistic when they said it would take, 3 to 4 days to get this done. At the point that we're at now, there's no way that we're going to have that funded and completed before the start of ball season this year. So we'd like to hold off on that Diamond 2 and continue to fundraise for that ourselves and try to submit some additional grants. Some of the ones that we maybe weren't successful in last year for Diamond 1, submit proposals for Diamond 2 for that. And then the new part of the request and the point of this correspondence to council today is during our, I think it was November meeting when we were here, we'd asked for 20,000 for Diamond 2. And we are asking council to consider reallocating that 20,000 that was already previously allocated towards Diamond 3. So the way Diamond 3 is now, it's completely unplayable. It's very bumpy, weedy, which is too bad because even if you look back on the air photos, it was clear a number of years ago and still able to be used. So Jeff Woods, our vice president, has been working with Titan And Titan has agreed to donate either labor or time, and they've made that commitment also in writing, but it is going to be once they're on site, they're going to say, okay, here's where we can save you, some money, here's where we can do this. So there hasn't been a full, this is how much yet, but they've made that agreement and they definitely want to help out. So we have allocated some of our money towards some of the things that we would need for that Diamond 3, which would be the pitcher's mound. So that'll be, it's looking right now, it's going to be about $5,700. So ball's going to be, minor ball will be covering that, obviously, because we need that diamond for our older kids. We don't currently have any diamond in Dutton Dunwich or West Elgin that can accommodate those U15, U18 players. So we did take some measurements at the existing 2 diamonds. For the radius that they need legally to play from the pitcher's mound, we'd end up having to take an additional 40 feet away from the outfield, which is a huge undertaking. Those diamonds are both clay. They're already operating, like the player's surface has no issues. So it's not a good decision to do that way. Titan says they can come into that 3rd diamond and extend it. It'll be a chips and dust. It certainly won't be, clay into the standards of the others, but it will be playable and it will meet those league regulations. We also looked at West Lawrence. Their diamond is the exact same as our Diamond 2. It's too small. So for perspective, we haven't had U15, U18 players in years. Even our local high school, their home games are played out of Woodstock or London because there's no diamond in this area for them. Sometimes they will have them in St. Thomas, but a lot of times they're headed that way. So this would give all of these older players that we have registered, they could stay in our community this year instead of going back to the city. And Titan has given us a proposal that will get it there, which is, basically the grading, fixing the bumps, fixing some of the drainage, and then extending that infield to meet that radius that we would need. So we've got some of our money, again, the 5,700-ish for the pitcher's mound plus another 5,000, but his original quote was for 25,000 without any of that potential donation. So that led us to our request to asking whether council could just reallocate the funds from Diamond 2 to Diamond 3 instead.
Okay. Councilor Griffith.
The backstops, are they good enough at the Diamond 3? That we won't have any issues there. And the other question I have is, or concern I have is the houses behind for the hard balls. So I'm just kind of wondering how that plays into the factors into the big pictures.
We believe the backstop will work for this year. I mean, it's obviously not great. It's much smaller than what we'd like to see. And that's in our plan to replace down the road. But we think for this year, it's going to be okay. As far as the houses, we have talked a little bit with Gerald and Dan about some of the existing poles that are in place by the soccer fields that had the netting for those houses, and whether that would be a potential to relocate those. We're not sure at this point, but it is something that the Diamonds Committee, we got to kind of sort that out and see what is exactly feasible that way.
Anything further? Go ahead.
Certainly not opposed to reallocating that money. My question is though, how much more would it cost to put the clay in? Like I hate to do things twice.
So we did get some quotes on the clay, and Titan quoted us to redo the entire diamond to the actual size and to get it close to what the other diamond is in terms of like the depth and putting in that A gravel and whatnot, and it was around $200,000. So that is why that application went into Jay's care. And any of the work that we would do now, it's not going to impact if we do get that Jay's Care funding. It's basically going to give us a solid base to start with. And Jay's Care was pretty clear that they wouldn't fund the whole thing anyway. So, I mean, if we do this work and then we get some Jay's Care funding as well, that would kind of be our top up with the clay and putting in those. Also, we had talked about putting in the different intervals of baselines so that it can also be used for the little kids in the future too, rather than just the one size.
So reallocating funding, you would be all set to just, this diamond would be up and running and be good for a while.
Yep, so we've had conversations with Titan and they're ready to schedule us in April. The only thing we need to work out is just kind of access to the site. They've got some ideas, so that's something that we kind of have to work out with, obviously, the Parks and Rec staff and the municipality as well, so. But yeah, they'd said they'd have it ready to go for us.
Councillor Pemberton.
Yeah, I guess I don't have a major issue with this. I guess my concern is budget purposes. I mean, we're having a really tough time with budget and our tax increase. And I guess I just want to understand that, you know, the reallocation to field 3, no issue with that. So it can be playable this year. But I guess it needs to be clear that we don't have any extra funding to add for next year on top of this, right? Like it's just a straight, we've already agreed to the 20,000. I don't think there can be any more.
Understood for sure. And I think that's why we also relooked at what is the most priority. And so there's other funding programs that we can investigate to get that Diamond 2 finished. Now we do have some contributions from businesses already for Diamond 2, right? And we don't want to go back to those individuals and reallocate that. So we still have about 23,000 for that Diamond 2, which makes putting those funding applications in a lot easier. So yeah, understood that
Yeah.
yeah.
And I guess I just want to make sure that Diamond 2, your plans for Diamond 2 will be able to continue with what you've got going on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Still a priority for sure. Yeah.
So just really, we've committed 40,000 to you, right? So you're just, so I've accrued the 40 or the 20 for 2023 because you didn't use it. So that's already there. And then I budgeted 20 for this year. So that's what that's okay. So I'm good. Just make sure I'm. I know, I'm getting lost here in the amount of money flying around.
She handles the purse strings, so you need to know.
Yeah.
I just a question on Diamond 3. I haven't spent much time out that far corner because I don't think it got used much, but it seems to me the backstop and everything is pretty close to the walking trail there. Can you still incorporate dugouts and all of that on Diamond 3?
I'm told we can. That'd be a better question for Jeff Woods because he's been dealing with Titan. But according to the plan that they have, yes, there's still room there. So
I'm satisfied.
And they've been working very closely with Dan and Gerald, and both of them really understand baseball. So I'm not concerned about the decisions that they make. So I'm quite confident. Hats off to you guys. You're doing a great job. So.
Anything further from council? Anything further, Mary Jo?
no, just thank you very much. It's very exciting. I just as a side note, posted some of the update pictures online, and yeah, everybody's really excited to see progress. So thank you for being part of that as well.
Okay, looks great out there. Thank you. Okay. Clerk Tara.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, whereas the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich received a request dated July 13th, 2023, and supported the rehabilitation of one diamond with a financial contribution of $20,000 and $9,410.08 in staff time. And whereas Council received a further request dated November 16th, 2023, and supported a financial contribution of $20,000 and $9,410.08 in staff time for Diamond 2, and further that council has received a request dated March 8th, 2024 to reallocate the financial contribution of $20,000 for Diamond 2 to Diamond 3 to allow hardball. Now therefore it be resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich reallocates the financial contribution of $20,000 for Diamond 2 to Diamond 3 to allow hardball, and no further contributions be made in the 2024 budget towards baseball. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you, Mary Jo. Okay, City of Quinte West Housing Funding. Any comments, questions on that one?
Just a quick comment here, and I had I agree with the the motion as it's read. I'm just wondering if we should elaborate on, like our whereas is, we're looking at a moratorium. We're considering putting or halting any development at all in light of the fact that we don't have funding to carry on with our wastewater. So I wonder if there's any appetite from council to incorporate that into this motion. That would be the first thing I would like to consider. And then where the development and fund is fundamental to our community's success through commercial development, residential development, and employment, while it helps sustain financial viability for our municipality. So and essentially what we're asking is that the mandate of the province is to build more homes faster, and yet because of funding or the shortfall of funding and the process and how to get there is so slow that we are actually it's actually going against the mandate of the province. So I'm just kind of wondering if we should incorporate that thought process into this motion, if that would hurt us or if it would benefit other municipalities as well through this. So basically what I'm asking is, whereas a development moratorium bylaw stopping housing development goes against the mandate of the province to build more homes faster and providing affordable housing in rural communities. So we're looking at a lot of different aspects here. So that's why I believe that this motion is very strong and we need to support it, but provide more evidence than they've already put on the table. So that's just my thoughts.
So you would like to incorporate Dutton Dunwich's own?
Well, you already
information.
have through, whereas complete phase 1 and water treatment upgrades allow more capacity at an estimated $32 million. We've already done that, right? But we're taking it to another level. We're considering a moratorium, right? And in that case, we're saying that we're adding more fuel to the fire. We want to build more homes faster, but yet this is our only limitation is funding. And the process to get there, actually, to be honest with you, I think it's very cumbersome. So that's just a thought, and I'm open to conversation.
So you want to incorporate our interim control bylaw language into the resolution? Or which we haven't passed yet?
No, I'm saying that we're
Considering that option.
So you're saying just add and another and that the position that rural communities are in are putting bylaws in to stop development due to lack of funding. We don't even have to say us, that you could just say small rural municipalities.
Yes.
Yeah, or something along those lines. Yeah, okay.
And principally, it's going against the mandate of the province.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Either I'm.
I just feel it needs to carry more weight.
You think you have something? Okay. We'll hear the question.
So moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, whereas the municipality of Dutton Dunwich has been nearing capacity since the report from the Ministry of Environment and Conservation and Parks in 2019, and whereas to complete phase 1 and 2 of the wastewater treatment plant upgrade to allow more capacity and for further development in the municipality to occur is an estimated 32 million. And whereas attempts to receive funding from the provincial and federal government thus far has been unsuccessful, and whereas this has the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich considering a moratorium on building which goes against the provincial mandate. Now therefore it be resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution of the City of Quinte West calling on the federal government to reevaluate their lack of funding for municipalities with a population less than 50,000 in rural Ontario and to make available funding for infrastructure programs to help build infrastructure to help build much needed new homes, and further that the province of Ontario be asked to invest more than the currently allocated 200 million into their housing enabling water systems fund, and further that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Karen Vecchio, MP, and the City of Quinte West.
Does that capture it? Councillor Dreyfus?
All right, all in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. Town of Coburg, removal of listed non-designated properties from municipal heritage registers. Anyone care to comment on that? Support for that? We'll hear the resolution. Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Dreyfus, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the town of Coburg requesting that the province extend the subsection 2716 of the Ontario Heritage Act deadline to remove non-designated properties from the Heritage Register for 5 years to January 1st, 2030, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Karen Vecchio, MP, and the town of Coburg. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. And the last one is the Township of Amaranth, a resolution on Highway 413. Anyone can care to comment on that one? It's an idea.
Sure is. Can't oppose it. Can help.
Clerk Tara, let's see what you got.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the Township of Amaranth requesting the province of Ontario pause the advancement on proposed Highway 413 and redirect the approximate 8 billion cost for Highway 413 to support municipal infrastructure costs and housing construction initiatives, and for at least 50% of those funds to be allocated to small urban and rural municipalities with populations less than 50,000, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Karen Vecchio, MP, and the Township of Amaranth. All in favor? And that's carried. Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that relevant correspondence was reviewed. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, thank you. I think we're going to get into close. We'll take a short break. And then we can let Tracy and Brent deal with their things. We're gonna, we'll do a motion to get into closed and then we'll take a break.
Just want to do post first.
Sorry. Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Dreyfus, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich now moves into a session of the meeting that shall be closed to the public at 7:13 PM in accordance with Section 2392 of the Municipal Act, SO 2001, Chapter 25, for discussion of the following matters. A, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality, Section 2392E of the Municipal Act for the Schultz drain. B, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality, Section 2392E of the Municipal Act for the OLT land swap. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, let's take a short break. There is a okay, I've been told.
He's getting it from both sides.
We're back. We're going to deal with the consent agenda. There is correspondence, there are committee reports, there are staff monthly reports. Does anyone want to discuss?
I just wanted to, did everybody notice, I'm sure you did, but in Tim's monthly about painting the. Okay, I just wanted to make sure, I think that's cool, yeah.
Great idea.
Yes, yeah, wanted to make sure, because they kind of chuckled when they said they would paint hydrants, and I'm like, oh. Anyways, I just want to make sure everybody did see that.
Is there any discussion on any of them?
I will just, guess I got to be on, just to comment on the Warden's Caucus newsletter.
Okay,
The Main Street Federal EDC grant is out. So I think I have 3 businesses looking at that grant right now in Dutton on Main Street, and they all qualify because of the address and everything else. And then there's the business stability stream, and then there's another one. So I'm hoping we can put that on our social media, that grant. I know we'll also do it through our EDC newsletter. And then there's this other one that maybe we should somehow promote is the Ontario Barn Preservation funding that is available. So I don't know if there's somebody interested in that kind of thing, but I know when we at Bacchus Page, we had a barn thing at one event, and we actually filled the church, the St. Peter's Church. It was well attended because there's a lot of interest in that kind of thing. So, but yeah, I just thought I'd throw that out there. So.
any further discussion from council?
Maybe just very, very quickly on the arena. They're moving ahead with the name change committee. That's going to take place, the event's going to take place August the 24th. Some stuff coming up, so put that in your calendar. Think anything else?
Okay, it includes the staff monthly reports. Does anyone wish to question, comment? I think we're good. Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Dreyfus, that the items on the consent agenda be approved. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. We're down to number 10, CAO Treasurer's Report, and A is the Asset Management Plan Adoption.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So this is just the official report to have you guys adopt the asset management plan that you were walked through by Dylan a few weeks ago. Is there any questions? I do need to get this adopted so I can actually, I need to actually put links to any grants I apply for now, and I have to quote page numbers and things like that. So we need to get it approved and get a final from Dylan so we can get on with this. Any questions?
We've dealt with it quite a while now, so, okay. Clerk Tara.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the CAO Treasurer titled Asset Management Plan Adoption dated March 13th, 2024 for information, and that council adopt the asset management plan as presented January 24th, 2024. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, and the next one is the council remuneration 2023.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this is an annual report that I have to bring to council. Just stating what your remuneration was for the previous calendar year. So, are there any questions?
See none, Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the CAO treasurer titled Council Remuneration 2023 dated March 13th, 2024 for information. All in favor? And that's carried.
And item C is the 2024 user fee bylaw update. Everybody's had a chance to look at it. Are there any questions?
We're rushing it too much. Is there any questions on the fees? I know that we really went through and tried to clean them up, got rid of some stuff that wasn't relevant. We did choose to put water and wastewater up 6%. I'm sure that, I'm not even sure that's gonna be enough, but we can do an analysis and see where we're at. So if there's any questions, anything look out of whack or that you have any questions on?
Go ahead.
I mean, this is just a general statement and I'm sure staff has looked at, you know, what we need to do to make this work. But you know, just as an example, like South Dunwich Hall, you know, we're looking at an $8,000 deficit, based on the numbers. And so I'm not challenging the thought. I'm just looking at it and thinking like, it's 40% difference in, for a building that, you know, just basically sits there and, like, I know it has some value to the community and so on, but when I look at the utility cost, compared to 2 years ago, we're up 40%. And we haven't our rental rates haven't increased by that value. So it's just a general statement. I think when, I guess what I'm thinking is that we've had discussions about in-kind contributions. We've had discussion, we can micro look at all this stuff, but I think there needs to be a broader view on all the costs that are affecting the municipality, because I think some of the comments that I received from the general public, and not very many of them, but they're out there, right, is like they're questioning the cost of renting a facility. But our costs have not gone down. They just keep going and they keep going. Our repair costs keep going. The pool keeps going. Like they're not small bills. So I'm just maybe wondering if we should, at some point during this year, consider putting a committee together and actually really breaking down the numbers, because I think, and we're hurting ourselves in the big picture. And I agree with, it's come up with some of the other counselors as well. We do need to look at in kind, what is legitimate, what's going to be required from people when they're asking from, or do we just have a hardline policy? I know Charlotte has brought it up several times. So it's, you know, again, this is a general statement, and to decipher everything here is difficult in one meeting, because I think we could probably tear apart every one of these to a certain degree, right? So
Yeah, and we're working on, you know, historical fees, and we've been trying to, I know even when Jessica's here, her and I went through them and we put them up considerably because they hadn't been put up in years. And this is just an ongoing thing, trying to get them there. But you're absolutely right. To get an actual analysis, we need to actually say, what does it cost to operate that, and then break it down.
right.
But you could never rent South Dunwich Hall to even break even.
No, and I'm
that's
not
why-
suggesting that.
No, and that's why Charlotte chose not to raise South Dunwich Hall, because we don't even rent it enough as it is at that cost. So
It's a tough, I know
it's-
it's a very difficult,
yeah.
and then, but I guess what I'm trying to say is we as a council have to live with what are we giving away and what don't we want to give away? And I'm getting to the point where it's like, it hurts us and what the expectations are. So.
I agree.
It's not just the fee schedule, but I hear what you're saying. They're not high enough anyways to support the hall, but then council's presented with, we want for nothing. So I think our in-kind has to have some guardrails on it. You know, these events, do they benefit the community as a whole? Do they benefit one little group? So I'm not saying we cut them all out, but there has to be what's the plan here? What's the benefit to the community? And then council has some guidelines to fall into. And I think that would help us when we're presented with these things, because they're coming at us all the time. And it's an easy thing to follow the rules, and there are none. So I think part of that committee that you suggest, I think is a good idea, but look at that whole policy, the payment in kind. What does people have to come with us before we even entertain?
We are working on a new donation and kind policy. We've gotten some from a few, I brought the one from North Mid because they have a very good one.
Yeah.
And then we've got some other ones, and yeah, we will be bringing you guys a policy
Okay.
on what they have to do to even get a donation, like in kind of thing, and but
Yeah,
that will
and
be
I
coming.
know the North Mid, they were, his mandate by council was to be net zero. So as best as they can. So we're far from that. And I'm not saying we can get there. I'm not saying that, but it's definitely something to look at and to criteria. I think what you're suggesting, what is the criteria for in-kind donations? So, yeah. I'm not asking for it now.
No, I get it. I totally get it.
Okay, any further discussion on that one? Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Dreyfus, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the CAO Treasurer titled 2024 User Fee Bylaw Update dated March 13th, 2024 for information, and that council approved the proposed changes to the municipal and utility user fees as outlined in the report. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you.
And the bylaw will come to the next meeting.
Okay. Municipal Hall roof repairs.
Yeah, so this, this was a capital approved project to replace the roof here at Municipal Hall. We got 2 quotes for roof, and we were only able to get one for the brick. The brickwork I'm quite happy with because it was the same guy that did the brickwork for the last grant. He came in at 29.5, I believe it was. And now staff is leaning on the higher quote on this one because just of the materials they're going to use, and he includes some things that the other one had were going to be extras. So I attached the quotes to the report. So was there any questions or any thoughts on who we pick?
Anything from council? Sure, that was an item on the budget committee discussion.
Yeah. Well, the reduced number.
So this project was approved through tax levy in the capital budget, and it came in under, so I did lower that budget line item to 160, but now we've taken it out and we're gonna move it to debt funding just because that's 3% on the tax rate, so we had to get it out of there. So.
Yeah, and just reviewing the quotes, I think you've made the right choice with your selection and what the company's going to give us, and the other company is really good too. I know they are, but you just don't. There's too many hidden costs there, so I agree with you there. So.
Okay. Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the CAO Treasurer titled Municipal Hall Roof Repairs dated March 13th, 2024 for information, and that council authorized the use of Atlas Apex Roofing in the amount of $125,925 excluding HST for roof repairs, and that council authorized the use of Riverside Masonry, Inc. in the amount of $25,900 excluding HST to repoint bricks at the top of the municipal hall. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. Okay, my agenda, I've been all over the place. We'll go to item 12. Is there any unfinished business? Council or staff? I see nothing. New business. And for Tara.
I would just like to ask council if they would be interested in holding a special meeting for review of the budget, just so that we can go through it a little bit more thoroughly. I'm proposing that we do Monday, March 25th at 4:30.
I'm away. I leave the 22nd for a week something. So, sorry.
No vacation for you.
Okay, where do we go from here, Clerk Terry? Another date that would work. I think
Um,
everybody needs to be around the table.
Thursday, the 21st. Terry, you had your schedule of, I know, 18th was EDC, right?
Yeah, all of next week is not a good time for myself.
So when are you back?
30.
April 1st? Can we pass the budget on April 1st?
April Fool's
And then
Day?
just say, psych.
How about I put together some dates and times and then reach out to you guys with those? Okay. Okay, so that'll be coming in your emails.
That April 1st?
21st.
Oh, 21st. And you leave
Doesn't work for-
22nd? 18th, 19th, what about you said next week's bad for you.
Yeah.
Because yeah.
I'll make something work and I'll reach out to everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we can always meet on a Saturday.
Sure.
I do terrible.
Your place?
Yeah, my place, I'll supply the beer.
Okay. Any other new business? Any announcements? No announcements.
I'll just comment on the weekend Linus event. Went really well. Was very, very impressed. I don't know how many people were there, but it was jam packed there for 2-3 hours. I think we gave away over 300 hot dogs. Kids had a blast, so I was really impressed, and Charlotte did an amazing job. So I think she needs to be commended for that. So.
And also opening up that community center this week is, she said she's had, I think the first day was 15 and 18 the next 2 days, which surprised her because it's so beautiful out. So she's wondering how packed it's going to be in the next 2 days because it's going to be rainy, right? So that's going over well as too for the kids. So yeah.
Well, let's pass on our thanks.
Oh, we do. Yeah.
I will
yeah.
personally. You're doing a terrific job. Okay, anything else under announcements? Nope. Proposed bylaws. In 15, is there nothing? Are we near the end?
We're done.
Did I miss anything, Clerk Tara?
We just have confirmed proceedings and adjournment left.
Okay. Bylaw to confirm proceedings. Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that bylaw 2024-08, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the municipal council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich, be read a first, second, and third time and passed. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, in the meetings, we're going to have a special meeting that Tara will schedule for the budget. And March 27th, is there anything that we need to incorporate into that next council meeting that we haven't discussed? Okay. And then April 10th. So the special meeting will be prior to the April 10th meeting of council then. Last one, Clerk Tara.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Dreyfus, that the meeting of the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich closes at 8:10 PM. All in favor? And that's carried.